Are 3 and negative 3 the same number? Of course not. Are 3 and negative 3 similar though? Yes. The idea that 3 and negative 3 are similar to each other but not the exact same is used to define the absolute value. We say the absolute value of a number x is its positive component. So the absolute value of 3 is 3, and the absolute value of negative 3 is also 3. We write the absolute value of a number as that number with two straight lines around it. One way that we can visualize the absolute value of x is as the distance from 0 to x on the number line, which doesn't matter if x is positive or negative. Below, you can see that the distance to 3 and the distance to negative 3 are both 3, the absolute value. So you've seen that how we compute the absolute value of x depends on whether it's positive or negative. If x is positive, like x equals 3, then the absolute value of x is the absolute value of 3, is the positive part of 3 is just 3. Positive numbers aren't changed by the absolute value. The absolute value of x is just x for positive numbers. But if x is negative, like x equals negative 3, then the absolute value of x, or the absolute value of negative 3, is 3. So for negative numbers, they're changed by the absolute value. But how? Well, for negative numbers, the absolute value of x is negative x. This is a little hard to understand at first, but remember, if x is negative to begin with, then taking the negative of it makes it positive. So we've seen that for positive numbers, the absolute value of x is x, and for negative numbers, the absolute value of x is negative x. For example, the absolute value of negative 5 is the negative of negative 5, which is just 5. Because again, taking absolute values of negative numbers makes them positive. That is, to make a negative number positive, you take its negative. For another example, the absolute value of negative 7 is the negative of negative 7, which is just 7. So we've noticed that the absolute value is defined differently for different values of x. In particular, we can write the absolute value of x as x if x is bigger than or equal to 0, and negative x if x is less than 0. This is an example of what we call a piecewise defined function, because the function is defined differently for different values of x.